Yes, now big story developing here in the UK. 47 people have been arrested as part of an operation to deter further disorder and violence in Leicester.
This comes as tensions involving sections of the Muslim and Hindu communities clashed over the weekend after a Pakistan versus India cricket match escalated into violence.
Yes, well, police faced significant aggression to deal with the crowds, and Temporary Chief Constable for Leicester, Rob Nixon, said officers had been brought in from all sorts of different parts of the country to help with the operation.
Well, joining us now to discuss this is Dr. Rakib Ehsan, social policy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I mean, could you just explain to our viewers, you said it a bit in the introduction, but many people would just be surprised to find that issues and conflicts that seem not necessarily associated with domestic UK politics actually taking on a potentially violent form on the streets of this country?
Well, Inai, I think that some of the scenes, the public disorder that's taking place in Leicester may be very surprising for many people. But for others, they may not be so surprised. I think for some time, we've seen the local politics in Leicester become increasingly communalised. The prioritisation of foreign policy issues, foreign territorial disputes, are being prioritised over bread and butter domestic issues. And I do feel that a lot of the public disruption in Leicester, much of that is as a result of out-of-town troublemakers from other major cities such as London and Birmingham entering Leicester. And I think that there is also that problem of recently arrived subcontinental migrants with radical ideological beliefs entering the fray. So you can see that much of the public disorder which is taking place in Leicester, it's the result of a mixture of both domestic and international factors.
I'm not asking you to look into the brains of the people doing this. Clearly, there's been a lot of arrests, and they're not very rational people. But what are the motivations and the intentions behind all of this? Has this been brewing for a long time? Because I have to admit, this is not something I've heard of really before happening in Leicester.
Well, I think Mercy Leicester traditionally has been viewed as a paragon of social cohesion, the truest interfaith success story in modern day Britain. But there have been recent developments which have contributed towards the social tensions and the escalation of public disorder which has been seen in Leicester. I do feel that the socio-political leadership in Leicester has been somewhat complacent. And we have to be honest that there are, under Britain's model of state-backed multiculturalism, all too often it's a sort of self-appointed community spokesmen who don't really have social cohesion at heart. They've been empowered. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in Leicester, it's almost collapsing into some sort of Hindutva Islamist battleground, and law-abiding, community-spirited Hindus and Muslims living in the city are caught in the crossfire.
On that point about perhaps the lack of kind of socio-political leadership, because I mean, for many people in the UK for the last couple of weeks have been engrossed really in this period of national mourning and have been amazed by the national unity that has been shown. But I guess beyond that, there are real fractures and fragmentation in many parts of British society. And how do we kind of meet those two things, that on the one hand, the desire to have a cohesive civic identity and the reality of these kind of fracturing identity groups across the country?
Well, I think in order to cultivate and maintain a cohesive civic identity, that takes a great deal of work. And I do feel that in cities such as Leicester, there has been a complacency that's creeped in. I think it's worth noting that last month, the University of Leicester announced that it was planning to hold a series of events celebrating multicultural success in Leicester and immigration-induced diversity. And I do think that almost demonstrates that kind of complacency that I'm referring to. In order to maintain and consolidate social cohesion in hyper-diverse urban areas, that takes a great deal of hard work, a great deal of on-the-ground interfaith and inter-ethnic activities. But on top of that, if I'm being if I'm being absolutely honest, we do have to see problematic patterns of immigration, and I do think that we can't ignore the Hindutva threat, especially when we're looking at post-Brexit liberalisation of immigration rules when it comes to countries such as India. So what we really need to do is work towards a more pro-integration immigration system, and we have to confront various forms of foreign-inspired sectarianism and ultra-religious identity politics in our communities.